NPN, PNP, syncing, sourcing. These are the 4 words every PLC beginner mixes up. They sound like jargon and they get tangled together until none of them mean anything. By the end of this video, they will be simple. I will start with the 3-wire sensor itself. Then I will show what NPN and PNP actually switch with the wiring drawn both ways. Then I will cross to the PLC input card, where syncing and sourcing live. And I will give you the one matching rule that decides whether your input ever turns on. No theory you cannot use. Let us untangle it. First, the sensor. Most modern proximity sensors and photo eyes are 3-wire DC. 3 wires, and the colors are standard. Brown is plus 24 volts. Blue is 0 volts. Black is the switch signal. The brown and blue wires do one job. They power the sensor's electronics. They're not the interesting part. The black wire is the interesting part. Is the output. When a sensor sees its target, the black wire changes state, and that change is what the PLC reads. So the whole NPN versus PNP question comes down to one thing. What does that black signal wire do when the sensor switches? Start with PNP, because it is the most common type you will meet. A PNP sensor switches the positive side. When it detects the target, the black wire connects to plus 24 volts. Think of it as the sensor handing out power. It pushes current out of the black wire, through the load, and down to 0 volts. That is what sourcing means. The output sources current. So the load sits between the black signal wire and 0 volts. One memory hook. P for PNP. P for positive, P for push. PNP pushes plus 24 volts out to whatever it is driving. In Europe and North America, this is the default sensor you'll find in the panel. Now NPN, which is the mirror image. An NPN sensor switches the negative side. When it detects the target, the black wire connects to 0 volts. It does not hand out power. Instead, it provides a path to ground. Current flows from plus 24 volts through the load into the black wire and back through the sensor to 0 volts. That is syncing. The output syncs current into itself. So the load sits between plus 24 volts and the black signal wire, the opposite of PNP. The memory hook, N for NPN, N for negative. NPN pulls the signal down to 0 volts. You will see NPN a lot on equipment built in Asia. Same job, opposite polarity. Here is where people get lost. Syncing and sourcing also describe the PLC input card, not just the sensor. And the meaning is the same idea, viewed from the card side. A sourcing input card has its input common tied to plus 24 volts. It sources current out through the input point, and it waits for the sensor to give that current a path to 0 volts. A syncing input card has its input common tied to 0 volts. It waits for the sensor to push current into the input point. So both the sensor and the card have a polarity. The only question left is how to pair them. This is the rule. Everything else was set up for this one line. The sensor and the input card must be opposites. A PNP sensor sources current, so it needs a syncing input card with a common tied to 0 volts. An NPN sensor syncs current, so it needs a sourcing input card with a common tied to plus 24 volts. PNP sensor, syncing card. NPN sensor, sourcing card. They are opposites on purpose because current needs a complete loop. The sensor provides one end of that loop, and the card provides the other. Match the polarities the wrong way, and there is no loop and no signal. So what is the most common mistake? Wiring a PNP sensor to a card that is wired syncing only, or the reverse. And here is why it is so maddening. The sensor still works. Its little output LED still lights up when it sees the target. Everything looks alive, but the PLC input stays off every time because the current has nowhere to flow. There is no complete path. You will check the sensor, check the program, check the wiring twice, and miss it because the one wrong thing is invisible. So before you land a wire, confirm 2 things. The sensor's output type and the card's common polarity. 30 seconds of checking saves you an afternoon. So here is the rule of thumb to walk away with. PNP sources NPN syncs. The card must be the opposite of the sensor. And when in doubt, follow the current, It always needs a complete loop from plus 24 volts back to 0 volts. Get those 3 ideas, and NPN versus PNP stops being scary. Now, to go make it concrete, you can practice sensor wiring free in the browser at plcsimulationsoftware.com/learn/sensors/proximity. Watch the signal wire switch in real time. No hardware, no install. Subscribe. New video every Tuesday. See you in the next one.